Space, final frontier. These are the voyages of Starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim, and with me, of course, is Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And we've got some breaking Trek news now. For anyone who's watching on the live stream, this has just hit the internet within the last half hour or so. If you're listening on the podcast, you probably already know this, so apologies. But the good news is the people at Paramount Plus seem to have listened to the backlash from the international fans and have taken some steps to making Discovery Season 4 available. As we understand it at the minute, the plan is this. If your country has Paramount Plus, Discovery is going to debut on there immediately. Whereas I think the plan before was to wait and roll it out when the global rollout took place. But that's not the case anymore. You're going to get Discovery straight away. And if you don't have Paramount Plus in your country, it's going to be shown. We're not entirely sure on this one yet, but what they've said so far is it's going to be on Pluto TV and it's going to air, implying that it's going to be in inverted commas, live broadcast on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night at 9 p.m., whatever your local time is. Whether it'll be on their on-demand catch-up service or not, we don't know at the moment. We're going to try that out at the weekend.
Yeah.
And see what happens.
Pluto TV is a free service.
Yeah, and it's available.
So no one has to go out and go, oh, it's available now international, but I've got to buy this. No, Pluto TV is a free streaming service.
Yeah, so if anything, the people who've not got Paramount Plus have actually got a bit of a better deal here. But to sweeten the deal a little bit, if your country does have Paramount Plus and you're thinking of signing up to it, they're running kind of an apology offer at the minute. So if you put in the code, I believe it's Star Trek, all in caps, but do double check it. If you put the code Star Trek in, you get something like 3 months for 50%. So to me, this is Paramount, Viacom, whatever you want to call them, admitting that they dropped a massive bollock with this. And
well, they did drop a massive bollock, but something that you don't get often with these companies is that they have done is they've held their hands up and gone, look, we've dropped a massive bollock and we're doing what we can with what services we do have internationally to put it right and make sure that you can see your show.
It is good that they've listened and they've done something about it. Apparently, it's not available in the Netherlands. I don't know if that affects any other countries. So it's not available in 100% of the countries that had it on Netflix. So it's not the perfect solution, but it's much better than where we were a week ago when we did the last episode.
Like, to be fair, they've done, like, Disney took absolutely no notice of the international market with The Mandalorian, did they?
None at all. And I think that probably impacted day one signups for Disney Plus. Particularly when they decided to roll it out weekly, even though it had been available in America for months at that time. But there you go. Anyway.
Yeah, that's what I mean. At least Paramount have actually listened to us as an audience and done something about it to say, sorry, we fucked up.
And the great thing is, you're going to be able to watch Discovery. We managed to, as on the description on our Facebook page says, fortunately, we were able to get hold of a copy of the premiere through our contacts in the Bjoran Militia, who, fortunately, because of Pluto TV now, will not have to put themselves in danger next week. So, but we thank them for getting us this copy. So we are going to be covering that. But first of all, we've got the
mid-season break.
The mid-season break, the quarter-season break, the quarter-season finale, whatever you want to call it, of Prodigy, which is called Terror Firma, but it's terror as in terror.
Scary.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure there was an episode of Discovery last season called Terror Firma.
Yeah.
Terra. So, yeah, you've got to have that different puntastic spelling in order to get away with repeating a title. Having said that, we had the Emissary in Next Gen and then Emissary in DS9.
Yeah.
We also had First Contact the episode, First Contact the movie. So this isn't the first time we've reused titles.
Yeah, they're not averse to copying names again, reusing them.
No, Unification Part 3. So, yeah, definitely. So, yes, this is the sort of finale. And I don't know whether this was intended as a mid-season finale or not, but I think it works. I think
it works as a mid-season finale. It ties up the beginning.
Yeah, it finishes off some of the character arcs we've got. It gets to the stage where Gwyn's integrated into the crew now. So we've got the team together working as a team, and we've obviously got that big reveal, which we'll get to. So we pick up pretty much bang on where we left off. They're stranded on the planet. Apparently, they're 10 kilometers away. So this episode basically is going to be the team trying to get across these 10 kilometers despite the planet trying to kill them.
Yeah, like almost straight away, we do get an answer to one of our questions. Janeway's on the ship and she starts pressing buttons.
Yep, there we go.
Yeah, she can use the controls.
We do find out a little bit more about Janeway in this one as well. Like, she's obviously not fully integrated into the ship because she needs to get something on the view screen in order to see what's going on at the back of the ship. Not integrated into the sensors.
Yeah, and she doesn't have full control of everything. She really does only have, like, this sort of answers one of the questions where she said she could only access lower systems.
Yeah.
To let them do things or not. But this proves, no, she can't access higher level systems.
But she does get to sit in the captain's seat, which is obviously where Janeway belongs. So that's pretty cool. And in terms of the rest of the characters, then we've got Dal wants to abandon Gwyn, but Rock doesn't. Rock's trying to actually help her. But then Gwyn uses what I'm going to continue calling the changeling until we're told explicitly.
Yeah, like this episode, it still continues to look and act as if it's a baby changeling. Yeah.
And she uses it this time to help her walk. Basically, it turns into leg braces effectively. Yeah. And I like when they're talking about what are we going to call the planet, and Jank and Pog wants to call it Murder Planet.
Yeah, which I think is quite reasonable.
Yeah, it does what it says on the tin, definitely. But Rock wants to call it Larry instead, which... And then, Janeway back on the ship then, she says, what would the real Janeway do? And my snarky side always wants to come out and say something like, oh, well, she'd probably kill Tuvix, but...
she'd make a cuppa.
Yeah, instead she gets...
She'd have a cup of coffee.
And
she's been having a coffee all the time.
Yeah, that's a good tick that they've given the Janeway hologram, that somebody's obviously gone... When they've programmed it, they've obviously gone, what's Captain Janeway's trademark? She likes a coffee. Let's put that in.
Yeah.
And she's not allowed to shut down this protostar system. So...
Yeah, well, she starts looking at it like the plant things from the planet are destroying all the plasma, so she's losing energy. And what's destroying all this energy? And she doesn't even know what it is.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, we've had it as a mystery, and Zero even talks about it later in this episode, where Zero says, oh, they made it a mystery for me. And we talked about this last week, but it's made explicit here, like that.
Yeah.
That's been bugging me. I've wanted to know what it is, and that's why the planet made it into that. And we start to get the answer at the end of this episode, don't we? I think, that's why it's a good mid-season finale.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
We get the reveal, but
yeah,
we don't...
Like, we get Janeway going through things. She goes, well, if I can't do that, what can I do? right, let's start with switch off the replicators, and she's doing the right things here with what she's got access to. She's shutting them down to keep the ship functional, but it doesn't need all these other things.
Yeah.
And she did the same on Voyager. She started by shutting down replicators and stuff. They use high amounts of energy.
But they always
they did sometimes.
Yeah.
They had rations apart from Fairhaven, which could be on constant.
Yeah. They always come out with some rubbish like, oh, well, it's on a different power grid, so we're allowed to run it all the time because we need holodeck stories, so it's fine. And then I talked about this when we looked at the first episode, how Dreadnought is basically Necron from Warhammer 40k. This big spider thing that attacks them, this is another Necron.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Games Workshop have got a deal going with Paramount or whether Paramount are just unaware, but they really need to be checking the copyright a little bit here, because anyone who collects Warhammer 40k miniatures, this is just Necrons, and Necrons are my army. I'm a big fan of Necrons, but
I don't play Warhammer, so
well, basically, if you wanted a model of Dreadnought and you wanted a model of this big thing that attacks them, you can go buy them.
You could, right
now. They'll be in the Necron section, and Necrons are cool designs. I'm not taking it away from them, but it's a little bit too close for the comfort, really. And then to get away from it, they jump off a cliff. And I'm only mentioning this because this is definitely jumping off a cliff week. We'll get onto that when we cover the Discovery premiere. Then we've got what looks like a Klingon bird of prey. Now, I couldn't tell because part of it's like crashed and overgrown and stuff. I couldn't tell whether it's the traditional bird of prey or maybe it's that variant they have in Enterprise, the slightly smaller.
It's really hard to say because the bird of prey has always been whatever size the writers want it to be.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a really bizarrely used. There's no continuity with its size.
Started off as a crew of 12, but then...
I think it ranges from. I think it's about 65 meters long to somewhere around 750 meters long, depending on which show it's in and which scene.
Yeah, because when we get them in Next Gen, it's nearly as big as the Enterprise D. It's a 12-man ship in Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, so it looks very Klingon bird of prey anyway, which brings us back again to one of the central mysteries of this series is, where are all these Alpha Quadrant species coming from? We've got to assume it's the caretaker.
Yeah, I'm still going with, there's no reason why a Klingon ship couldn't have been brought over by the caretaker.
No, absolutely not. And, they were operating in that area of space. They could have been in the Badlands.
Yeah.
So it absolutely makes sense.
I don't think there's anything that even says that the caretaker was only taken from the Badlands. I think it was taken from everywhere.
You're right. That's something I've just always assumed. But no, you're right. There's nothing to say it wasn't. Yeah. And then we start to sort of move forward the story of Gwyn and Dal a little bit. And it's weird because they started off seeming like they were good mates in the first episode, and then we sort of got a few sort of contradictory things, and then they seem to be as far apart as they have been in this episode. But then we're starting bringing them back together now.
I've said this before. I think a lot of this is that Gwen is actually lonely and doesn't think of herself as his prison guard, his captor.
Yeah, I think so. And
he sees her that way. But when he was a prisoner, he had no alternative than how to talk to her.
Yeah, absolutely. And he can't see past that, but she kind of can. And I think they do start to come together here, like the kind of bonding over parental issues. Yeah, they've got different parental issues, but it does start to draw them together a little bit. And she does give us a little clue about the changeling here. Like she says, it's an heirloom. and a dad gave her it. It's been handed
Yeah.
down. So I'm perfectly happy to go with the diviner. He's a bit of a dodgy guy anyway. I would not be surprised if his family have kept a changeling captive and made it.
Yeah, if they found that it's got them properties, especially if they found it as a baby.
Yeah. And we find out, yes, she has got a psychic connection to it, which we figured from last week anyway. But it's obviously something we are going to find out more about at some point. And then Dal comes to this realization we're going to use the stars to guide us, because it's all been a bit Blair Witch Project-y up to this point. It's like we're still walking, but we're not getting there. But
the planet's moving, changing around them, which is where terraforming comes from.
Yeah, it's a good idea, is that you've got this living planet and it's just messing with them. It's
just moving the mountain that they're heading towards around.
Yeah. And I think this shows the developing bond between them, that Dal does one of his sort of fake captain's logs, but he actually acknowledges that she helped him come to this realization. And up until this point, Dal's been very sort of me. And the fact that he gives her that acknowledgement and she smiles when he does it, I think that's telling us now, okay, the issue, it may not be completely gone. We might come back to it, but certainly we've moved on from she's going to be their captive and there's going to be all this antagonism now.
Yeah.
We're getting them together as a crew. And obviously that comes back at the end of the episodes. Gwyn ends up getting caught by the vines, and you get this bit where the diviner's got to choose between the ship and his daughter. And he very quickly chooses the ship. I know we're only working with a 25-minute episode, but
but it sort of looks and it's like, there's no contest here. It's the ship, and he even admits it to her later.
Yeah, he does. He says, "I had no choice," and it's like, "Oh, you kind of did, son. You know, you."
Yeah.
It's not like
your daughter was potentially going to be killed here.
Yeah. It's not like the ship was going anywhere, you know, literally. It's covered in. Of course, the irony is that it wasn't the ship at all. And we pull one of these fake outs, which the one I always think of is Silence of the Lambs, where they have the sequence where the FBI are raiding Buffalo Bill's house. And it has him going to the door and answering the door. Then when he answers the door, it's just Clarice Starling, and the scenes watching with the FBI are actually, they've gone to the wrong house. And it is a good fake out. It generally tends to work. I think this one, it didn't work for me. So I thought, it's going to be a fake ship, because we know that the planet shows you what you desire.
What you desire is, and he desires the ship.
Yeah, it seemed pretty obvious, but it's a nice fake out. And then obviously they get back on the ship. They go back for Gwyn. But I thought it was interesting that the way that's framed is they go onto the ship. Janeway says, "Where's Gwyn?" Then the next thing we see is them going to rescue her. So we don't actually see who made the decision to go and save Gwyn. We don't see whether Dal went, "She's down there, we're going to go back for her," or whether Janeway said, "You are going to go rescue her."
No, I think Dal has to have said that we're going for her now, because Janeway can't make them decisions. She can guide them and say what they've to do.
Yeah, but she could have guilt-tripped him, you know. She could have think, I don't know whether it's deliberate that we don't see that, whether we're going to get a conversation about it later on, maybe. I mean, we don't need to see it for the episode. The implication is there that Janeway says, "Where's Gwyn?" and then they decide to go rescue her.
Then they go for her.
But I found it interesting that we don't actually see the conversation. So that if they want to go back and pick that up, they can do. But it's not necessary for the drama, but it's a nice... There's a bit of dramatic space there if they want to mind that later.
I think it's maybe one of them things, because it's for a younger audience, it doesn't need to be in.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be, but they could always
come back to it.
dredge it up later on. Like if they want Gwyn and Dal to fall out again, you can always have someone say, well, he didn't want to save you. It was the rest of the crew that said, you know,
Yeah.
so we can always do that if we want. What I found really interesting as well is that Gwyn sits in the captain's chair. Now, obviously, she'd been sat in it as a prisoner. But up until this point, it's been Dal saying, I'm the captain, I'm sitting in. But here it's Gwyn. And I have to say, I think the captain's chair suits Gwyn better at this stage than it does Dal, given...
Yeah, I don't think Dal's fit for being the captain.
No, Gwyn comes across more mature.
I'm not sure if they'd want who, up until recently, had imprisoned them as their captain either.
So maybe we'll have a bit of a struggle for the chair further down the line. I don't know. And then, obviously, we're warping away. We've got the Necron monolith chasing us, also available at Games Workshop. And they need to go faster, which is where we find out it's not just called the Protostar, it's got a Protostar that powers it.
Yeah. It's sort of like the reveal is like it's a containment chain holding a Protostar.
Yeah. Now, I thought they do say a different type of warp, don't they? They call it something else warp.
I think they could just... Like, I've only actually seen the episodes once this week. I've not done my normal big watch. I'm not at home this week, so it's been really awkward to do things.
Well, this is it, you know, and also for the reasons we discussed earlier on, it's not been as easy to catch Star Trek this week, but
I thought they called it the Proto Drive.
They could have done, yeah. They do reference that, but it's not entirely clear, I don't think, whether this is a new type of drive or whether it's just that the energy of the Protostar is that supercharged that it just makes the warp engines go faster.
I think it's a new type of drive.
I think it probably is.
And I think that's why it's an NX shape. And I've got suspicions because in Discovery, they say that they look for other alternatives to dielectric for warp drives, and haven't got anything. So this is an experimental ship. So I've got reasons to believe that the Protostar will never get back to Federation space in this story.
Yeah, and also
these are, strictly speaking, a Federation crew from Federation space.
Oh, that's true. So, yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see where it goes. And
if they did just go back to Federation space, that's just redoing Voyager, really. And we've done Voyager. I love Voyager, but...
Yeah, we've done it.
We don't need Voyager to be done again.
No. It's definitely different because, there's no reason for this crew to have a desire to go there necessarily. So... Yeah, it's not a cliffhanger as such.
No, but it's a tie-up that Gwyn becomes part of the crew, and we get the lovely reveal of what the Protostar is, and we see it go into the Proto Drive where all the back of the ship changes and it's a big engine.
It is a big engine.
But does. The back of the ship just turns into a huge engine, which is very aimed at kids.
Yeah,
is that sort of thing.
Again, it'll make a good time.
It's Rick Steinbeck, who designed Voyager. There's an interview with him where he's talked about Voyager, and the producers asked him to put a moving part on because it was sort of like the time of Transformers were all the rage and all that at the time. And it was sort of, no, we can't make the ship into a Transformer. And he got away with the moving the cells. And I think that was enough then. But this is getting towards a Transformer now.
Oh, I'm up for that, though. I mean,
and I love it. And it is, but this is also where it's aimed at a younger audience. But this is a much cooler way of going into really fast speed than the spinning pizza disc.
Oh, definitely, yeah. I mean, I'm loving this. I'm going to buy this toy of the Protostar when it comes out. So you've got the back half is your Transformer. You do that. That's brilliant. You open your landing bay and you get that little speeder thing that they had as well.
Yeah, that buggy.
This is going to be an awesome toy. Please make it a little bit cheaper than the Playmobil Enterprise.
Yeah, please don't give it to Playmobil, the license to Playmobil for it.
Having said that, the Playmobil Enterprise already has dropped in price by 110 quid.
Well, it was always going to, because it wasn't going to sell massively at the price it was.
I think another 200, 250 price drop, and we might be talking. But anyway, the Protostar toy is going to be awesome. So we'll leave.
The Protostar did look cool when it went into Proto Drive.
So,
and it just left them standing, and it's like they're not on our sensors at all anymore. They're gone.
Yeah, that was.
I wonder if that's the last we will see of the Diviner. If that is,
maybe. I think it'd be a little bit disappointing if it was. And I don't know. Would you hire John Noble as the? No, they've got to go back and save the little cat.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got to do. There's a cute little kitten down on that planet.
Well, that's it. There's the potential for a couple more characters to come into this.
Yeah.
There's the cute little cat, and it's also the baby changeling.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to the second half of the first half of season 1.
Yeah, when's that? Is that in January? We're getting that.
January, yeah. We get I think the last 2 episodes of Discovery are going to have a crossover. And then we're going to get like 3 episodes standalone of Prodigy, and then probably Picard. So let's look at the start of Discovery then. So season 4, up until very recently, not available in the rest of the world, but hopefully, possibly,
hopefully everything's been put right.
Yeah, by the time you're listening to this, it could well be. So it's not as elusive as it once was, but yeah, the season 4 opening episode. Now, I just want to say you've only watched it the once. I've managed to watch it twice, and I think this really benefits from a second viewing this episode.
Right.
The first time I enjoyed
I just want to say something here. I called something out at the end of season 3.
You did?
I said Burnham is now a delivery girl. She's a delivery driver. And how's it open? We've spent the last 6 months delivering dilithium around the galaxy.
You're absolutely nailed it on that one. But yeah, I think it's compared to what we've had in Discovery for the first 3 seasons, this is a relatively low-key opening episode, I think. Like season 1, obviously, it's the pilot, so it's big.
Yeah.
It's introduce everything. Season 2, we brought in the Enterprise, we brought in Pike. That's a really big episode. Season 3's our first episode in a whole new millennia.
Yeah.
So that's going to be huge. This one is possibly the first episode of Discovery that just kind of feels like business.
A continuation from the previous season.
This is
just continuing business as usual.
Yeah, this is the crew of the Discovery. Michael's the captain. It's taken us 3 seasons to get there, but this feels like the most sort of normal that we've got from Discovery. But I think when I went back and watched the episode again, it does do a really good job of setting up a hell of a lot of things. And there's a lot going on in this episode.
Right.
So we'll take a look at it. First of all, the opening sequence is just showing off. Like, we get a really nice special effects shot of Discovery, of Buck's ship leaving it. It decides to fly over it so that it can do the breaking apart, coming back together. That's just showing off.
It is, but it's like totally unnecessary. I can't understand. It looks cool, but I can't work out why it's doing it. What's the point of it?
I think it's just to remind the audience that Buck's ship can do this, in case you've forgotten in between seasons. And then we zoom down into the planet and we see all the rocks and formations and everything. So it's a real show-off special effects sequence.
Yeah,
in the episode, which is fine. And then
we switch to the start of Into Darkness.
Yeah, exactly. We've got this setup where we're doing First Contact, and for me,
well, it isn't First Contact; it's Recontact, because the Federation had been part of the Federation.
Right. Yeah. I think it's trying a bit too hard to be a bit too goofy, this whole sequence. Like, you've got all this, the sort of talking to the natives, and Buck starts giving him a bit of grief, and you're like, okay, I get that it's meant to be a sort of funny introduction, but it's not very good from Burnham's point of view. Like, I'll take my boyfriend down and he'll start giving him shit. Like,
yeah.
Go wrong, she manages to salvage it,
like,
but it goes very
like
wrong.
How he's carrying on as if this is almost the first mission they've been on like this.
Yeah,
but they've been doing this for 6 months.
Yeah, it's because I think though it's implied that she doesn't always take Buck. She's like, I took you for this because of your empathy thing, which he doesn't do.
Yeah,
it doesn't really help, and there's little bits that are meant to be funny.
Yeah, but my whole point is though that all they have done for between seasons is deliver dilithium and recontact races. So why is he sort of being funny about it and not letting her get on with diplomacy? Because this is what they've been doing. It just plays wrong to me. It plays as if this is the first mission.
Yeah,
like that.
It comes across sort of very amateurish.
Yeah.
And I know that it's a setup so we can have a chase and everything. And there is some interesting stuff about language. And we get a bit of this later on in the episode as well, where it's, she says, no strings attached. And says, oh, it's a euphemism. And so it establishes that they don't, even though they're speaking through the universal translators, that the meaning of certain things isn't necessarily the same between the cultures.
Yeah.
And then we get this bit about Grudge being a queen, and they're like, well, we must rescue the queen. And, you know, it sort of works, but it does.
Yeah.
It's a bit too goofy for me. And then they jump off a cliff, which is, our second cliff jump of the week. And very, very much the start of Into Darkness. And the butterfly people, which is a cool effect, but it's a little bit weird. But it does get to show how well Michael's doing as a captain in terms of getting the crew on the case. Right, work this out for me.
Yeah.
Get on it, do that, and they all come together as a crew. They work it all out. We need to fix these satellites.
Yeah, the planet's moved off its magnetic axis, which planets do.
Yeah.
So they've lost the ability to navigate properly because they rely on the magnetic fields, which is fair enough. And they have a satellite network that needs the dilithium to work.
And then fixing it is a good way of doing this recontact. And it finishes with a really good line where she says, we're the Federation, that's what we do. You know, that's really good. But I think it's just tonally, the start of this bit doesn't really work. And
well, you get the impression by how these are towards the Federation that they have been part of the Federation and left the Federation because of how the Federation was acting.
Yeah.
And like I get the impression that like they've got the dilithium in their satellite network, and obviously it's not been active during the burn, or it'd have all blown up. So it's as if someone's stolen it, and you almost think, well, did the Federation take the dilithium off them?
Yeah, maybe they did when they need. Or would it have blown up? No, it wouldn't have blown up because it was just that it became inert. The ship's only because they had warp cores. So I like what they're trying to do with making the contact, but I think I'd have rather they just played this more diplomatically rather than doing a goofy action.
I've since put the goofy scene in.
Like, yeah, I think they want you to go, oh, great, we're back with Discovery and we're having fun and we're running around and it's like, yeah, but it's at the expense of making Burnham look a little bit incompetent and a little bit too silly for all of it. And we don't have a massive problem with Burnham, though. You know, we have criticised some elements of a character and some elements of a development.
Yeah, and rightly so.
So, yeah. But there's no way they cannot be aware that there are elements of the fandom that have these issues with Michael. And I think things like this really don't help. Anyone who's got an issue with Michael Burnham, the character, can point to the start of this and go, well, look at that. You know, she took a boy and he started giving him shit. And I just don't think it helps. I think throughout the rest of the episode, I think they do great stuff with the character.
Like to be honest, like the fandom menace which we have is actually a very small minority, but it's a vocal minority.
That's it.
And that's why we hear them. And Paramount have maybe thought, hold on, we've got, like, they obviously have the real, like, the fandom menace have been saying since season 1 of Discovery that Star Trek is over, and we've now got 5 series on the go.
Yeah.
So there's obviously a serious amount of people who are watching Star Trek and it's making money, or they wouldn't keep making new series.
No, exactly. And, you know,
so I think that they're just not interested what they have to say anymore.
I'm sure they're not, which is fine. It just annoys me when they get a bit more ammunition.
Yeah, anyway. I think that you've got to, like, Star Trek was guilty, or Paramount, of cutting Enterprise too soon.
Definitely.
And a lot of that was due to not understanding what internet trolling was about. and a vocal minority swaying what a company decided to do.
Yeah. Well, this is it. I mean, you know, it goes on in all sorts of media and things. And the best thing is to stick to your creative team and let them do what they want to do.
Yeah. And if you've got the figures that actually say, well, 100 people, there's been 100 posts on Twitter about how crap it's been, but 100 million people watched it last week.
Yeah, exactly. It's a bit of a different story. So with the new setup then, Michael's the captain. Is Reese the first officer now?
I'm not sure. It's not really mentioned who the first officer is, because she made Tilly acting first officer, which I like Tilly, but I disagree with an ensign being made acting first officer.
Yeah, and that, you know, that it doesn't seem to be the case now. She's been promoted to lieutenant.
Yeah.
And if you look in the end credits, everyone else is now a lieutenant commander.
Yeah.
Detmer, Owo, Reese, Bryce. But Reese is the one who's sitting in the chair while Michael's on the planet. I have a feeling that we're just going to gloss over this until Saru comes back, and Saru will be the first officer. But, you know, I don't know. But speaking of Saru, down on Kaminar then, at first, and this is my fault, I got confused by this. I was like, what? They're friends with the Baul? They've only sort of done anything with them about a year ago, but then I thought, no, it's 930 years.
Yeah, it's 1,000 years.
So, yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. This is the sprouts of the seeds we planted back in season 2. Kaminar looks really cool, like the underwater thing. Looks a little bit like the Gungan city in episode 1. Star Wars episode 1.
Yeah.
But with 20 years advancement in CGI, so it looks a lot better than that did. Certainly the aesthetic is very much like that. And there's a nice bit where there's sort of this debate between isolationism and expanding out, and the majority of them seem to be saying, well, we're quite happy here. We've got this equilibrium now between the Baul and the the Kelpians, and Saru says, no, there's a wider galaxy out there. And we find out that it's been 5 months, so we've got a bit of a time jump, which I think was necessary given how much went on last season. I think we needed a bit of a time jump to go, okay, everybody's settled into the roles a little bit.
It's calmed down.
Things have moved on in the time we've not been watching. And then I want to see this happen. Buck jokes about getting Grudge a dress uniform. He says, I'll stay if you get Grudge a dress uniform. Now, that's a teddy bear waiting to be sold, is that?
It is, isn't it? That's another one of your toys that's going on the shelf with
next to me Protostar.
No, what's it called? The sort of jelly thing from Prodigy. Murph. Yeah. That's going to be on the shelf next to Murph. Is Grudge in his dress uniform.
Murph, and we need Grudge in a dress uniform. As long as they don't do them at the Build-A-Bear workshops, it'll end up costing a fortune. And speaking of good toys, there's a little Tribble quite a big Tribble actually, goes past Michael. So maybe Tribbles have sorted out the problems with them, the troubles with them, should we say?
Yeah, but the Tribbles were never an intelligent species.
Maybe they are now, 1,000 years of evolution.
I don't know.
You never know.
It seemed very odd having a Tribble on board like that.
And the fact that she seemed to acknowledge it, like for a person. But again, you never know. And then we find out the reopening Starfleet Academy for the first time in 120 years. And I think this is great. This is a lot of stuff like this we talked about last season. Like, we want to see the Federation expanding again. We want to see Starfleet building again. And we're definitely...
Yeah, they do mention how many races have rejoined the Federation in a short period.
We've gone from 38 to 59 in 5 months. So that's really good. And they've got
a new space stock, the Jonathan Archer space stock.
Yes,
and you see that they're building starships again, which is good.
And they're upgrading a lot of them as well, potentially. It's implied they're upgrading them to use the Spore drive, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
Meantime, they're trying out other things, and the Voyager's going to be the sort of the main ship to do it. And obviously that plays into the wider episode later on. But there's a lovely bit where they play Archer's theme from Enterprise when they announce the Archer space. Really, really good. And we get a nice bit where they say, the mission was scientific exploration, and that's what we're going back to. So again, that feels a lot like addressing some of the concerns people had about it. Like, it's been... I'm not saying these concerns were all valid, but a lot of the criticism at Discovery was it's too bleak. It's not enough getting out there and exploring.
They're
making it clear that that's what's going to happen.
But that wasn't... that's never been the premise of the show, though.
No, it's not.
And that's what we're going to get when Strange New World airs.
Yeah, that's it. It's great.
I think that's unfair criticism of Discovery, because Discovery has never been about that.
No, I agree. It's DS9 got a lot of flack at the time for being a war show, effectively, but DS9's fantastic, and there's nothing to say Star Trek can only tell one kind of story.
Well, I think it's proved that it can tell many types of stories.
We've got, as many series as we have. We've almost got as many shows on now as we've ever had in the past. That's how many different stories we're doing. We're not far off. I think one more and it'll
and it equals it. We've had TOS, TAS, TNG, DS9, Voyager, Enterprise in the past.
Yeah.
And we're up to 5 now of the new Trek.
Exactly. So yeah, we're definitely not running out of stories just yet. And then we start to get what's presumably going to be the big plot thread of the season. So there's a distress call from a planet near Quajon. Book's going back to Quajon anyway, so we're setting up the pieces on the chessboard. This is where Book's going to be. This is where Discovery's going to be. And the president decides she wants to go, and she says, I can't ask anyone for a sacrifice I'm not willing to make myself, which is interesting given what happens later on in the episode with Michael and her reaction to it. But we'll get to that. Michael.
Well, I agree with the president on this.
I know, I do. I think the president, what she says to Michael at the end is right. But it's interesting that she says, I wouldn't ask anyone to do a risk I'm not willing to take myself.
Yeah.
Michael steps up to take the risk. She sort of says, are you sure that's the right decision? Shouldn't you be on the bridge?
Well, in that circumstances, she's right, because there's a red alert going on and she's leaving the ship in danger.
But then she's the president of the Federation and she's off out on what's potentially a dangerous mission. So,
well, to be fair, the mission that they're going on shouldn't be that dangerous a mission.
Shouldn't, but it's kind of one rule for me, one rule for you. But having said that, a president is a very different job to a captain. So, yeah, it's interesting. Admiral Silver Daddy Bear, though, and Dr. Squee, you couldn't join us for this episode, said we have to mention his beaming smile in this scene. So he's a happy chappy now. He's back with his family. Everything seems to be going good for him. So, and him and Michael seem to be getting on much better as well. There was a bit of frostiness last season, but we seem to be getting there now. And then I thought, and I'm glad it wasn't the case, I thought Book and his family was going to be a big multi-episode thing. Like, when it sets it up, like, I'm back on here, I'm doing this ceremony for my nephew, we're doing all this stuff with the tree sap, but he doesn't have a necklace, and they say that's a story for another time. It's like, let's not eke that out. Like,
yeah,
important. Can we just find out what it is?
Tell us.
I'm not that invested in it. I don't want a novel about why Book doesn't have a thing. Either do it or not. And this was one of the elements I wasn't that much of a fan of the first time. So I was like, I like Book as a character. I'm just not that interested in what's going on his home planet, which, as it turns out, I didn't need to worry about by the time we
not at all.
So, absolutely fine.
Yeah, his own planet gets dealt with.
It does indeed. So the station then is spinning like crazy. There's a massive gravitational disturbance. And we do this thing of like playing with language again, because he says, the commander guy says, one of our guys has said it's a shit show, which they tell me means really bad. So, yeah, that's right. And then he says it's all squiddled, and that's obviously one of his speech words. And I just like that play on, even like it had with the aliens at the start. Even though we've got a universal translator, not everything has a perfect translation, and there's always going to be little bits here and there that have different.
That don't mean different things, and
it's like with like the example that's often used is like Eskimos have so many different words for snow, and like in England we've got so many different words for rain because we get that much rain, whereas countries don't probably just call it rain. So I just like that stuff, that it's playing with this idea of that there is still room for misunderstanding. And we get a few like character beats on Discovery. Owo and Detmer have got this sort of playful rivalry, like, well, can you do this? Well, of course I can, but you'll need to do this first. And I like that between them two. It's really clear how close they are and how well they work together and everything. And then we're reintroduced to Adira and Gray. And Adira, we now find out's an ensign now. Michael's made her an ensign. So everybody's basically had a promotion in between seasons.
Yeah, and everyone is part of the crew apart from Saru now, by the looks of it.
Yeah. And Gray's still there. Obviously, we know that Gray, them finding some way of making Gray corporeal is going to be a big thing. We don't spend a lot of time on it this week, but it's a reminder that he's there, and we're going to come back to that at some point. And then something a bit weird happens. This is something I noticed a couple of times this episode, and I think I've got a headcanon explanation. Tilly and Adira beam down to the station, and they beam off of the bridge wearing the normal uniforms. But when they rematerialize, they're wearing sort of like the spacesuit type thing. And I'm assuming that the transporter changes your clothes for you. Kind of like when Batman and Robin used to go down the pole and they'd come out at the bottom.
Well, they used to press a switch on the way down.
I know.
Instant bat costumes and instant, or go back up to instant normal clothes.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm assuming it's a similar sort of deal here. So we get a sudden costume change. And then
it definitely happened during transport. So
and it's a good idea if that's what's going on. It makes perfect sense to go. In this situation, here's the outfit you need.
Well, one of the very early scenes in Discovery season 1 is the replicator making the uniform.
Yes, yeah.
And this is a progression in technology that the transporter, I can make a uniform, but I don't need time to do it anymore. I can just do it like that while you're transporting.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. Yeah, these uniforms didn't even exist before they beamed down, and then
they've been replicated onto them.
Yeah, I like that. And down on the station, then, first of all, there's a really cool special effects going on where you've got half of them standing on the ceiling and half on the floor. I really enjoy that. I thought this commander was going to turn out to be a baddie, just because straight away he's like, no, you're not doing that. I want to do that. It's my station. I need to do this. And I thought, it's going to be that he's doing something dodgy.
I thought that at first. It was just a red herring.
Yeah, it was. But yeah, you think, it's going to be that he's lured him here so that he can get the programmable matter so he can do something nefarious. But it's not. You're right. It's just a red herring. So, and then this is where you start to realize why this episode's called Kobayashi Maru, because it just escalates and gets worse and worse and worse, the situation. We've got more degree hitting it. They need to evacuate, but the transporters don't work. But they've got a little shuttle, but it's only a one-way shuttle, so we need to reprogram it. But then when we reprogram it, it gets stuck anyway, so we need someone to go externally to free it up. And this is the bit we talked about earlier where Michael says, well, I'll go do it. I've got work.
I've got the most experience in worker bee. And the president, rightly so, goes, is that the right decision? And it isn't the right decision because she's the captain in a red alert situation. A ship's been hit. A ship's under well, not under attack, but it's been hit by frozen methane.
Yeah.
There's explosions going off. She's got an away team on the station as well that she needs to worry about.
Yeah.
And she's leaving the bridge in the command to someone else.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can see both sides of it because everything you said there is absolutely right. On the other hand, if Michael is the most experienced, then she might be the best person, but it's one of them where
Riker wouldn't have let her leave the ship.
Riker wouldn't have done, but Riker would have
Kirk would have been off like a shot.
Yeah, definitely Kirk could have done it.
Janeway wouldn't have even reached there because there was a nebula on the route.
Yeah. they'd have still been back on Sir Cal's planet because that was just a massive nebula.
Who knows with Cisco what he'd have done?
Yeah, Cisco, it depended whether he had a beard or not and whether he had his head shaved or not.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's one of them, but the lesson, I think this season's arc for Michael is going to be learning to be a better captain.
Yeah.
And it's good that
like
they're doing this.
This is also going to sort of put the fandom menace in the place.
Yeah.
As well, because she's been pulled for doing it wrong.
Yeah.
And rightly so. And it's that first little seed of that being said.
Yeah. And this is good as well, because we talked at length last season about it. It just seemed to come out of nowhere a little bit because Michael had been sort of at a most insubordinate in season 3 and then finishes the season as captain.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for her to be the captain, but it just felt weird the way they did it in season 3. But I like the fact that now that she is the captain, they're going to explore that, and they're going to explore this idea of how good a captain is she and what are her rough edges and how's she going to get better at it. And that's what ultimately comes of this episode is the president says, yeah, you're a perfectly good captain, but you're not what we need for this mission that I'm looking at.
Yeah, but didn't you think Michael sounded petulant though when she found out that she wasn't going to get this new ship?
Yeah.
And said, "Well, I won't want it anyway. I want to stay on Discovery because that's my ship."
Yeah, but again, that's part of the learning curve, isn't
it?
You've got to learn when you're in the wrong and when you could have made a better decision, and I think that's what we're going to do with Michael this season. And I do like all the interplay between her and the president, like when she asks her if she was lying or not. And the president more or less shuts her down, says, does it matter whether I was or not? It got the job done because the guy was there pulling a gun on Tilly and Adira, and the president talked him down. And I think I want to see more of, I don't know if we're going to get it, but more of the president and Michael, because they're obviously both on the same side. They obviously both have the same goals ultimately in mind, but they're coming at it from different perspectives.
Different sides.
And they've got different ideas on how to do their jobs. And I think that's going to be really interesting to explore as we go along. But we also get sudden costume change number 2 here, because Michael's in the worker bee, and then the next second she's on the bridge in a normal uniform. So I'm assuming, again, she's done a personal transport, and it's for her.
The transport's got to be replicating uniforms as appropriate.
Yeah, which is a really cool feature, and I think
it's got to have dress for your day functionality.
Yeah, exactly. And it'd be cool, you're finishing work, you're meeting your mates down the pub, just boom, there we go.
Yeah.
Maybe casual clothes when I leave work. Excellent. Back to book then, very briefly. The birds are all falling from the sky, and then the moon explodes, and we don't see him again until right at the end. And the main interesting stuff here, I think, is from the president and Michael. First of all, they have this thing about you can't always beat the odds. And Michael says, well, we have before, but that doesn't mean you're invulnerable. And that's getting at the nub of it again, isn't it? It does come down to the Kobayashi Maru thing. It's, there are no win scenarios.
There's no win situations.
And this time they pull it off, but there's nothing to say you'd be able to do that again. And this does make me worry that Michael's going to lose someone this season. And
because of this.
Because of it. So she learns the hard lesson.
Yeah.
And it'd have to be, I think, in order for us to care enough about it, it'd have to be either Buck or Tilly or Saru.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, because they can't pull another Ariane on us and someone that we have to find out loads about them because they've left it too long now.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, maybe it'll be that she doesn't lose someone and she makes the right call to stand down and something really bad happens, but she's made the right call. I don't know. I'm really interested in this character arc and where we're going to go with it. I do wish, though, they dropped a line in where the president's talking to Michael about the Kobayashi Maru. It'd have been great if Michael had said, well, of course I know about it. My brother designed it. And that would have been nice because we don't know Spock designed it in the Prime timeline, but we do know he designed it in the Kelvin timeline.
Well, he designed the one that Kirk went on in the Kelvin timeline. But I don't think he designed it in the Prime. No, he maybe designed that one that we saw in Wharf of Khan.
Yeah. Oh, it's no. Yeah,
there's maybe been other versions of it.
Yeah, but I would have liked it. That would have been nice if they'd have thrown that in, and it might have got one over on the president there. And then the president says it's all about balance, and that ties back to what Sukal says to Saru earlier in the episode. He says you can achieve a balance because you can go out in the world, but you can also be here because of the communications we've got now and everything. So I feel like they're trying to create a link there between Saru and Sukal and the president and Michael. Whether we'll build on that later on, I don't know. And then I think the scene with Michael and the president, the sort of the penultimate scene of the episode, is really good because this is where it gets to all this stuff we've been talking about. Like, she's basically saying, yeah, I'm not considering you for the Voyager captaincy anymore because you've not shown me you can make the hard decision for the right reasons.
Yeah.
And you've got this loss in your past and it makes you want to save everybody, but you can't afford to be doing that as a captain. And I think that's great that's what we're going to explore with Michael. And
we think we're going to explore with Michael. You never know.
No, you never know. It could be thrown away next week and we never come back to it. But I did get the feeling, though, that this is laying groundwork for that being Michael's character.
Like, you've got to hope that everything that's shown, that when they know they're writing a series-long story, that you don't start arcs and then just throw them away.
No, exactly. And it was a bit stop and start with Michael last season, I felt. Like, they did... It started off positioning her to become like a great leader, but then it took a few back steps. And then as a result, by the time we got there, it didn't feel as earned as it probably should. And it's the same mistake as going back to the Kelvin films where Kirk got promoted really quickly, but then in Into Darkness, they demoted him again to promote him again. And it's like, don't do these stop-start arcs. Just do a character arc. And
okay, Captain Kirk did get demoted in the Prime Universe, but not until the end of Star Trek 4 after he'd had all of the original series. And there was a really good reason why he got demoted. He went back to save Spock's life.
Exactly. And it felt like with Into Darkness, it felt like, right, we've heard your criticism about how fast he got promoted. We're going to deal with it in the next film. And it's almost the same thing again here. Like, we've heard your criticism about her becoming the captain. We're going to deal with it after the fact now. And even though I'm really excited to see where this story arc goes, you could have done this story last season and not painted yourself into a corner where you need to do it. Having said that, I do think this is a really solid, good start to the season, if not as spectacular as what we've had previously in Discovery. And then, of course, right at the end, Quasion's been destroyed, and presumably this is going to lead to whatever.
Well, they say that there's gravimetric disturbance
Yeah.
Similar to what they had at the space station there, but that's light years away.
Yeah, exactly. So it's obviously something big that's moving pretty quick. I know there's been speculation that it might be Voyager.
Yeah, like
I mean,
I'd hope that they do something original.
I would hope so. And it's one of them that every time there's a big anomaly, there's always a theory that it's Voyager. So who knows? But I'm interested to find out.
Like, to be fair, like, I love the motion picture, but you can see why people call it the motionless picture, and it's
definitely
long. And maybe to redeem that thing, but do we really need it?
No, and the thing is, Voyager's story's done. It's learned everything it can possibly learn in our universe, so it had to go to other dimensions. So there'd be no reason for it to come back now. And if you want your follow-ups on Voyager, there's loads of novels, loads of comics. But yeah, I'd rather this was something new and interesting.
I'd like it to be something new.
And they have said in like the publicity for the season, it's going to be something quite different. It's not going to be an enemy as such. It's going to be a scientific problem that they need to solve. And I'm up for that. I'm interested in that storyline as well. I hope that it's not another, this is a thing that's destroy the whole galaxy. You know, we did that in season 2. We did it in Picard season 1.
We did it to an extent in season 3.
Yeah, I don't feel like we need to go there again. We can have something that could cause serious problems, but let's not have it's going to destroy the whole universe, because you end up getting it. So Russell T Davis's Doctor Who run fell into this. It was like, you know, the finale of every season, it was either the Daleks or the Cybermen or it was the Master or it was a combination of all three. And it was always, it's going to destroy the whole of time, or it's going to destroy the whole of the universe, or it's going to destroy. And you can have lower stakes and still have great drama. So I'd be quite happy with that this season. Which you'll be able to watch it on Pluto TV if you're not in America. So apart from apologies to people in the Netherlands. But so we won't need to use the Bjoran Militia next week, but we will be back to talk about episode 2 of Discovery Season 4. In the meantime, then, if you want to get in touch with us, it's at RetrekPod on Twitter, retrekpod@gmail.com. Or come and join us on the Facebook page and let us know what you thought about the start of season 4 of Discovery. Though I would strongly,
what you thought of Prodigy so far.
Yeah, tell us what's the drive from Prodigy? What's going on with that? Where are they going to be next season? They're off the map. Are they going to be back in the Alpha Quadrant? Is that where we're going to see Captain Chakotay?
I still think he's ought to be a flashback and he's to blame for it being lost.
I'm going with that, definitely. Sort of thing Chakotay would do.
It is.
How awesome would it be, though? I mean, it won't happen. But if next episode of Discovery, the crew of Prodigy turn up in live action, and that's where the drive's taking them. It's taking them to the future and back to the Alpha Quadrant. And yeah, just how mind-blowing would that be if they just...
No, that'd just... what?
That'd be so awesome.
Like I keep saying, there's the ability now for the animation to come into live action if they wanted for an episode.
Definitely. Star Wars are doing it. I read the other day they've cast someone as Sabine Wren for the Ahsoka series.
Yeah.
So, you know, we can do this sort of thing. Let's do it. Let's have a crazy crossover. The Arrowverse does a crazy crossover every year. So Star Trek's about due one. We've with five series on the go. Yeah,
they've almost got to be looking at a crossover somehow.
Yeah, we've never really done a mega crossover. Like it's been
we haven't
characters here and there. But if you're going to have a threat that's going to destroy the universe, let's have Picard and the La Sirena, Pike and the Enterprise, Michael and the Discovery. The Protostar comes into it.
Captain Freeman swoops in and
she saves the day.
Yeah.
Cerritos actually saves it all, shows them all how it needs to be done. But yeah, let's do that. That'd be awesome. Anyway, we'll see what happens next week. We probably won't see the Prodigy characters, but you never know.
It's wishful thinking, isn't it? That's not going to happen.
Maybe next year. Anyway, thanks for trekking with us this time, and we'll see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Bye-bye.